Clyde, please stop butchering Mesoamerican languages. I know you are only an English as a second language linguistic teacher, but if you are going to pretend to be a master's in linguistics with expertise in Amerindian languages who supposedly deciphers and fully comprehends languages from around the world, it perhaps you will at least have basic knowledge of the pronunciation of common Spanish and Native American words. It really strains your credibility at any foreign language ability. Oh wait, we are talking about your followers, who are Afrocentric fanatics. They will believe anything you say. Carry on. But the names of the cities you butchered are Guerrero and Oaxaca. Back to the subject at hand. None of these three historians mentions Panoplo, but that it would have mattered. Panoplo is in the state of Tlaxcala, over 7,000 feet above sea level. I know Clyde thinks the Mande were magical, but I highly doubt they were sailing in airplanes. Bernardino de Socadon mentions the Toltec as the earliest inhabitants of the land, but he does not mention Panoplo. He mentions Tulancingo. Tulancingo is in the state of Hidalgo, also over 7,000 feet above sea level. Fernando de Alba Ixtlilxochitl doesn't mention Panoplo either. He mentions Potonchan, at the shores of the river Atoyac, between the cities of Cholula and Los Angeles. The original name of Puebla is Puebla de Los Angeles. The river Atoyac runs between it and Cholula. It runs all the way down to the Pacific coast. This place is also over 7,000 feet above sea level. De Alba mentions that these original inhabitants came from the east. Of course, places like Paso de la Meta, known pre-Olmec sites, in Chiapas, are east of Puebla, and they would have had to travel west, along the Pacific coast to the Atoyac River, and then navigate up the river to get there. Diego de Landa doesn't mention Panoplo either. De Landa mentions that some Mayans, elders from the Yucatan Peninsula, said that their ancestors came from the east, across the sea. De Landa adds some biblical mysticism and states that God had freed them and given them 12 paths across the sea. Of course, Mayans were polytheistic. This sounds like an attempt to impose the lost tribe of Israel belief on them. Early Eurocentrism tried to claim that the big civilizations of the Americas had to be one of the 12 tribes of Israel which had been lost. There is a grain of truth in the tale. A recent genetic study of Mayans has shown a link between them and the South American and Caribbean Arawak tribes. This would mean they would have come across the Caribbean Sea from the east, but not from Africa. The eastern point of origin would have been the Brazilian through Colombian coast.
If you look at the Azapa number 5, you can see many of the Olmecs in the boat. This boat records this transportation of African people to Mexico. In this boat, if you look at it carefully, you'll find that the tree has 12 roots, just like the story recorded in the Mexican tradition. These 12 roots probably represent the 12 migration routes of the Olmec people from Africa to the Americas.
The Isapan culture was not Olmec, and it was not on the Gulf Coast. In fact, it is right in the region of many Pacific Coast pre-Olmec civilizations. Stela number 5 does not depict a migration. When you look at it in detail, you see it depicts part of their creation mythology. You see the gods pulling out a man from the tree of life. You see many animals, and you see the tree of life join the heavens and the underworld, represented by the sea. Who ever heard of a tree with roots in a boat? This claim is highly amusing. Even more amusing is the fact that there's no X in a box, one of Clyde's central claims about supposed boats from the Sahara.
The Olmecs introduced writing, pyramid building, and agriculture.
The Olmec may have been the earliest Americans with writing. As of now, we only have one possible example of Olmec writing, the Casca Hall block. It is currently undeciphered, no matter what Clyde claims, but the dating is still undisputed, as well as the possibility of it being writing, as it may just be a sort of mnemonic accounting tool. The earliest confirmed writings are from the Oaxacan, Zapotec culture and that of the Epi-Olmec, not Olmec. Another candidate for earliest writing is the Quipu found in Caral, in Peru. The knot system is still undeciphered. The ancient Peruvians in the Caral Supe valleys are the oldest pyramid builders in the New World, only predated in the whole world by the Sialk Ziggurat in Iran. The Olmec are not the first pyramid builders in the Americas, as it was still in the mound stage. Even in mound building, they are predated by such mound builders as that of Watson, Breck, in Louisiana. As for the agriculture claim, that is inaccurate as well. The earliest evidence of farming in the New World is in Oaxaca, with squash, and in Puebla, with avocados, both dating at around 10,000 years ago.
Archaeologists like Dr. Warzinski, Marquez, and Irvin Constance have found African skeletons throughout Mexico.
Carlos Cuervo Marquez never found any skeletons in Mexico. He was a general in Colombia who also liked to do ethnography. He was a racialist of his time. He was referring to archaic skeletons found all over the Americas, from Bolivia to Mexico, which he personally did not find. He specifically mentioned two found by Juan Carrasquilla in Sumapaz, Colombia, which he believed of a different race because of their prognatism, low forehead, and marked brow ridges. These were Paleo-Indian remains, and as we now know, we still have Native Americans with those types of proportions. Miss Constance Irwin never dug a bone in her life, was a librarian at the University of Iowa, and was just an armchair diffusionist scholar like Clyde. The only true anthropologist of the three, Wierzyński, was a Polish anthropologist who used a flawed methodology, even in his day. Wierzyński used an outdated methodology, even in 1962, where supposed racial types, 16 in all, could be detected mathematically by comparing just three populations, Uganda, Mongolia and Poland, to whatever population was being analyzed. I kid you not.
Especially at former Olmec sites.
Platilco was never Olmec. It showed some Olmec influence, much like one sees American influence in many cultures today. The core of the culture was its own. It is located in central Mexico, nowhere near the Olmec territory. Cerro de las Mesas is at the Olmec, the civilization that arose next to the Olmec region after the Olmec had declined as a civilization.
According to Wierzyński, many of these skeletons were of African people.
Wierzyński claims that he finds African hybrids as well as pure Asians and Europeans, and their hybrids. Remember that Wierzyński had a methodology that claimed 16 racial types. 4 of them specifically European, which he labeled as Nordic, A, Mediterranean, E, Armenoid, as in Armenia, X, and Lapanoid, as in Laplanders of Finland, L, of course, his methodology had 3 non-European categories that were seen as European-like. Barbaric, as in Berbers in North Africa, B, Inuit, as in Ainu of Japan, P, and Oriental, as in the people of India. K, mind you, I don't buy into any of his hogwash, but it's bad enough on its own, without Clyde making even more preposterous claims. Oh yeah, I forgot, Wierzyński added Cro-Magnoid, Y, as European as well. Then he had 4 classic Asian, Mongoloid, M, Arctic, I, Pacific, Z, and Highland. Q. Then he had 3 classic African types, Negroid or Bushmanoid, N, Pygmic, O, and Sudanese. X. His last category was Australoid. T. Those were his 16 racial types. Wierzyński claimed that from these 16 pure racial types, all other humans could be explained as hybrids, or intermediates. All others were supposed hybrids of these, even Native Americans.
He found in a sense that some of these Olmec were what he called Loponoid, the Pacific type, the Bush Equatorial, the Armenian. But all of these types were basically, in a sense, African people. These were not terms that referred to people who were European or Native American. They referred to African people.
It is entertaining listening to Clyde try to tell his listeners that he knew what Wierzyński was referring to, even better than Wierzyński. Wierzyński was quite clear on who he thought was Lapanoid and who he thought was Armenoid. Wierzyński claimed that until Tlatelolco, 3.9% of the remains were pure Armenoid, and 1.9% of the remains were pure Alpine. He also thought 1.9% were pure Inuit, 7.7% were pure Pacific, or Chinese-looking, and then the rest were supposedly hybrids. Of course, Sub-Inuit and Inuit with Arctic are both pure Asian hybrids, so supposedly 28.9% of Tlatelolco and 27.9% of Cerro de las Mesas was pure Asian, compared to only 5% pure European. Of course, Lapanoid is as close as you get to an Asian look in Europe, so you can bet that Sub-Pacific was supposedly pretty Asian-looking as well. That would make 67.4% of Tlatelolco, 90.9% of Cerro de las Mesas, pretty much Asian-looking. But didn't he say that some were African-looking? Wierzyński claimed that some were hybrids, like the Dongolan, which is H, and X that would mean Armenoid and Sudanese. Well, here is a supposed Dongolan skull. Except for the artificial flattening of the head, the face is very similar to Pelican Rapids woman, a skull that was studied recently. Supposedly the closest population was Moridori. Well, here in Moridori, that facial structure could easily be Native American. That is the problem. Wierzyński makes all these hybrid claims because he fails to recognize Native American variety. He has to fit everything into his preconceived racial types. Of course, I have addressed these old craniometric studies of Native Americans that claimed them as European or African before. Regurgitating